So, welcome to the Day Friday. My name is Michael Olschimke. I'm the CEO of Scalefree. We run a session here every Friday, 11 o'clock Central European Standard Time, to allow you, the audience, to ask questions about Data Vault, data-driven applications, data mining, cloud computing, MVP stuff, and so on. So that's the basic idea. And yeah, you can ask your questions. You can use the chat here in the client for live questions. You can use the Q&A function in the client. You can just raise your hand if you want to get a voice, essentially. Or you can use a form, which I'm happy to show you after today's session, essentially. I show you the link where you can then submit your question. If you would receive multiple questions, I would be cherry picking. If you receive no questions at all, I will talk about my cluster. Do me a favor, we're running low now on questions, and I haven't done any progress on the cluster, to be honest. So I can't show you anything. I don't want to here be without my pants on. So ask questions, because otherwise I have to make something up. No, ask questions. So we have some, there should be some pile up, essentially. And yeah, that's the basic idea. Cool. So let's check out one of the questions that we received via the form. 1 second. Okay, so this is about multiple business keys in a source column. Let me just read this first, and then I show you the structure that came via the form, actually. We have a CM system which plays also as an MDM role. One of the entities is called external identifiers. So in their master data management system, they have some table or entity where they capture external identifiers and relate them to their business objects as defined in the MDM system, essentially. This table keeps relations between customers and other systems. There should be an external ID. There should be as external IDs like social numbers, social security numbers, or VAT IDs, password numbers, and internal IDs, customer ID in the core system, card management system, etc. How to model it if some of the IDs are also business keys with their own hubs. And I need these relations to combine customer-related data from different domains. Now that's the data example here. We have some relation ID, a unique identifier, some customer ID, that's a object in MDM, an entity in MDM. Then you have an ID type, so to this customer ID, they have different business keys assigned to it, like a VAT number, CMS number, and so on. And those are the business keys in the external systems. But you realize that in this column here, there are different types of business keys. Social security numbers, VAT numbers, and so on, all kinds of different business keys. And they should belong to to separate hubs, right? That's the challenge this user is facing. So how do we deal with this? Well, I'm strictly a data-driven modeler. So that's number one. So I always go data-driven, which means that's your data in the first place. You have business keys inside the descriptive attributes of inside your data, essentially, let's say that. And what I would do is, from MDM, I assume you have a customer entity. So you have a customer hub from MDM. So that's hub number one, that's clear. It's always customer ID, so it's all good. And then I would model this as a multi-active satellite. You have multiple keys, external identifiers, attached to the customer. So if you model this multi-active, where you have 4 rows in the group for the same parent in the same load, and that becomes your multi-active attribute either in the primary key. I wouldn't do that because I never trust a source system, which means who says that you only get one VAT number for this customer. First of all, they might have multiple. Scalefree has multiple VAT numbers, for example, in different jurisdictions. So there might be cases where you have multiple VAT numbers, for example. And if it's just for error, right, dirty data. So I wouldn't trust a source system only to deliver one VAT at all times, which means I would move also the ID type into the descriptive data, into the payload of the satellite, and just use the subsequence from the data lake or from your staging area to distinguish between these sub-deltas inside your group of the multi-active satellite. A concept we teach typically in the bootcamp class. So, which means that I have a multi-active satellite with 4 records in the group for this particular customer for now. I just treat these business keys as descriptive fields in the first step, right? It's just for me descriptive data because I don't want to apply any business logic. If the ID type is VAT, then create a link to the VAT hub. If the ID type is CMS, what's CMS? It's a customer number. Come on, go away. Customer number in another system, so okay, fine. If the business keys, if the ID type is CMS, then create a link to this hub from the other system or whatever, right? So I want to avoid that. Any conditional logic. I just dump the data into a satellite for now. And then you have two choices. Let me assume that there is a VAT hub already from another system, where you have the VAT IDs, you have some descriptions attached to the hub and so on, with some satellites and so on. So you have the VAT hub already. Now in your raw data vault, you have two hubs, the customer hub from the MDM system, the VAT hub from the other system, for the tax system, let's say. Well, you have the VAT number in the satellite on the MDM side, right, in this multi satellite. And you have the same VAT number in the VAT hub. So just join it. Would be one solution. Just join the data. I mean, in the end, the goal is to get the data into the raw data vault, integrate it as much as possible, so you can ease your queries. But nobody prevents you and says that you always have to join via hubs and links. I'm joining on satellite attributes as well sometimes. In this case, for example, you could do that. Well, you might face the very same reason why we introduce hash keys in the data vault design, because of the join conditions. They get more complicated or complex when you have multiple columns and not fixed length attributes. And the hash key gives you a consistent query performance. That's why you could also think about, to improve the performance here, especially on more complex business keys, or let's say when you have to parse something out, right? When the ID value is multiple columns in, I mean, I've seen all kinds of stuff, right? Some comma separated or pipe separated data, because the VAT number could be multiple columns, let's say, right? In that case, the join performance will really suffer essentially. Well, then create a link in the business vault, an exploration link or a business link, where you essentially apply or implement the conditional logic. If ID type is VAT, then create a link between customer hub from MDM and the VAT hub. That's a conditional logic in the business vault, right? So just create a link in the business vault where you implement this logic, and then you're done. That gives you, again, a more efficient approach, because now it's, again, hash key to hash key joins, right? Solves it. So that's how I would deal with this in a fully data-driven approach, right? That's my goal. You don't have to come up with the final model in the very first step. The enterprise data warehouse model inside your enterprise data warehouse is the raw data vault and the business vault combined. That describes both your source data sets and your business to a good extent, how the business is actually using it and so on, right? So it's a two-step process. The first step is to get the raw data unmodified into the raw data vault as is, and do the best, but here you're limited. There's just a limit what you can do without applying any conditional logic, right? If that's your limit, then you're stuck here. Just capture them, these business keys, as descriptive attributes for now, and then in the business vault you apply the business logic, because you know the VAT has there should be a relationship between to the VAT hub essentially. You know that, and we implement this essentially. That's the basic idea. And this concept follows another concept which we do in refactoring sometimes. When you know there's employee records, so you have an employee hub for the business key for the employee number, and then you have a satellite, or you have some descriptive data. Let's say that you have some descriptive data, and one of the fields is the VIN number, the vehicle identification number of the employee car, the corporate car the employee is driving. And you could say, well, it's a business key, so it should be a hub, but you have no descriptive data about the car, and nobody cares. So we just leave the business key, the VIN number, inside the satellite describing the employee. That's it. Well, sure enough, next sprint, somebody comes in and says, here's another data set with all the descriptive data for the corporate cars, and we need to have that in the enterprise data warehouse. What do you do? Well, then there's a concept called hub it out, where you essentially select all the VIN numbers from the satellite column into a new hub. That's an insert statement, right? Then you can create a link between the hub for the VIN number and the hub for the employee by selecting the relationship of the hub, employee, and the satellite containing the VIN number. That relationship relates the two hubs essentially. And based on the deltas, you can also calculate a effectivity satellite for the link, for example. From when to when did the employee drive that particular corporate car, because they change after a while, right? So that's what you can do. And we do the same here. It's just that the hub it out pattern is a refactoring pattern where we modify the raw data vault and make it better for the new realities of your two systems now. Here in this case, we don't refactor, we extend the model by extracting those business keys using some business logic, essentially. That's the idea. But it's more or less the same concept, or a similar concept. All right, so good question. I like it. And thanks for the image here, right? So they came all via the form, which you can use as well. Let me just show it to you. So yeah, if you have a question like this, use the form here at sfr.ee/dvfriday. Again, I'm running low on questions, so shoot your questions. Now's the best time to get them quickly answered. It's summertime. It's what it is. Always over summer, we have less audience and less questions, essentially. That's what it is. So, but if you're here, perfect, right? So you get your questions answered. And that's where you can also upload pictures if you want, like this gentleman here. Upload some diagram for the data at place. And it was perfect because it was not too big, right? So it should fit on a PowerPoint, should fit on a slide, essentially, in HD, essentially, high definition, not 4K here, right? And yeah, cool thing. So if you have, and we have other webinars. So there's, this webinar here is called the Data Vault Friday because it happens every Friday, right? But we also have more webinars on Warescape and DBT, and they happen once a month. And you can register for those at scalefree.to/webinars. Cool. And if you can't wait until next Friday for getting questions answered, then go to the DVIC, the Data Vault Innovators community, where we essentially, which we co-sponsored with Ignition Data in Australia. And that's where it's like a community-style forum where you can type in your questions, and the guys from Ignition Data and Scalefree jump on it, and other people jump on it to answer it, essentially, for you. Cool. Then, yeah, that's it, essentially, from my side. So thank you for joining, and hope to see you next Friday, guys. Thank you.